right, guys. Hey, welcome back. Okay, so we are in a part two. If you didn't see part one, you'll need to check that out first. There's a free link there in the description box. Then you'll know where we are because we left on a cliffhanger. And I was like, okay, all right, this is long already. We're gonna have to do a part two. What is this about for him? We've got the devil and we've got that Six of Cups. And my suggestion was, is this a situation where he's kind of at that crossroads of can I actually go toward a soulmate? Can I do something like this? Is this possible? There's almost a fear now that he's creating freedom, now that he's collapsed a lot of things in his life and intentionally has walked away and given up certain things that were less about prosperity, more about things that were confining him. He's making these decisions, but then the next chapter of his life, we saw the moon card. And it's almost like he needed to sit just with himself for a little bit to try to figure out what he needs to go do next, to try to figure out who he wants to be next. He could go become an emperor, but he's got some things to think about. There's a lot of grief surrounding this. I almost feel like he needs a chance to decompress. We have that Five of Cups and we have the Tree of Life. Him making big changes in his life, it isn't like, okay, yay, now I'm free and it's only time to celebrate. It actually looks like there could even be guilt surrounding the choices that he's been making to kind of do things differently. There's maybe a hard to place sorrow with, why didn't he have like maybe a more supportive environment if he was in something complicated. We kind of saw in part one that this is somebody who may have had a lot of other people's drama around him all the time, that he was perpetually having to play the role of mediator in, and he finally doesn't want to because I think it was eating up his opportunity to kind of live the life that he wanted to, even though it kind of looks like he may have been in quite a supportive community or network, but it was also completely consuming, if that makes sense. So he's kind of sitting here in these elements of grieving, leaving that tight-knit, even if somewhat toxic network that he was a part of. All of this feels like he's not yet ready to decide what to do next. We have an Empress in the reverse. Is that him reflecting on a mother figure, or is that him reflecting on the idea of, I don't know that I want to get into any kind of big relationship? Or is that him reflecting on his past actions, where maybe he wasn't upfront, maybe he didn't treat somebody well, maybe he stayed connected to family drama, his community drama, and he's really having a regret over those past actions because that toxicity, maybe he's only realizing the depth of it now that he's breaking away from it. Hang on, we got to look a little closer. Who is the Empress that he is thinking of that he lied to? We have an Eight of Coins here. Somebody that I think there's been a lot of lies that he's told for a long time, and he may have told a lot of lies to his family or his community that he was so invested in, that seemed to have so much drama. He may have hidden from them how utterly miserable he was. He also, I think, didn't want to tell them that he's wanted to go to someone that he cares about, possibly a soulmate, but maybe they have vilified that connection. Maybe he agreed, oh yeah, I would never go to that person. But then in turn, he also lied to that person, that Empress energy in the reverse, that all this time he's been trying to work on how he would escape one lifestyle to go to something else that he spoke ill of. It almost feels like he's played too many different roles. He's been trying to keep other people happy. He's always been hoping, wishing that at some point he would escape and he would have this better life. And he's been quietly and secretly working on it, if only in his mind. Now he's actually broken away from that family unit that seems to have had a lot of drama. But I think it's kind of striking him, the magnitude of, so just because I broke away from family drama, how am I getting to the person that I want to be with? Or how am I getting, tell me just about that Empress in the reverse. I've told so many lies. I've told lies to a family. I've told lies to a person that I wanted to be with. Queen of Cups, I'm going to definitely say that they either vilified their Empress, who they actually love and who loved them, in order to appease and please a family group that they wanted to stay, in network with for a while. All the while, they didn't tell their family group that they were freaking miserable and that they missed this person. I'm guessing that this Queen of Cups is likely the Queen of Pentacles that we saw in the very beginning. But now that he's broken away from that group, it's almost like the magnitude of the amount of lies and masks that he wore, it's like really sinking in. I think he's made a real muck of things, right? Did you say something unkind or unpleasant about, yeah, about I'll say the woman that you love? Yeah, you betrayed and broke her heart is what it says. So this, I'm sorry, this is such a tough message, but it seems as if some way that he spoke, or even maybe this can be cruel silence. Silence can be worse than words. If at the urging of whatever group environment he was in, he pretended he was done with the person that he actually wanted to be with, lied to them, hid how miserable he was away from her. But in doing so, not only did he basically betray what he wanted, but he betrayed her, and he kind of betrayed the family too. He probably should have just stood up for what he wanted. Instead, all this sneakiness. I think this message says it really doesn't behoove anyone to wear a false mask, especially in, matters of like who we really are and what we really want, because in the end, we're cheating ourselves, we're cheating and lying to the people that assume that we're acting like, oh yeah, I'm happy, I want to hang out with this group, when in fact they wanted someone who was either like vilified or somebody that they pushed out of their life. And then they betrayed her too. So it's like we have 3 betrayals going on, which makes sense because we have the 3 of Swords, right? Everybody kind of is because of their lies, everybody has a right to kind of feel like, what the hell? I don't get why you did this. I think that's what the moral of this particular story is. God, we have the King of Wands and we have the 5 of Swords. I kind of think it's hitting them that I don't know if they are so like in love with her, but all honestly kind of wanting to be defensive about, why all of this occurred. It feels like they're in a blend right now of like, kind of like their head's a mess at the moment. They're thinking about all the stuff that's already gone down. They're thinking about the games that they played. They're trying to say, but deep inside, I always loved her. I know I blocked her or ignored her or disappeared on her. I even let everybody else think I wouldn't want to be with her. But all this time, like all I've dreamt of was someday being with her. But I did push her away. But you know what? I had to do that. But I always loved her. It kind of feels like there's this weird argument going on, like in their own head about, well, I did what I had to do. But it doesn't kind of erase the fact that there's everybody kind of got betrayed or everybody got lied to. King of Pentacles sideways. This is them kind of talking themselves through this whole thought process of what they did, where they're at now. They've walked away from another, whatever that life was that they were living. And now they're kind of faced with trying to rebuild with the life they'd like to have. But how are they going to become the Queen of Pentacles, King of Pentacles? How are they going to do that? Remember from part 1, we had that Queen of Pentacles completely at peace. She said, I don't think that they know who they want to be, but I've connected with my higher self quite a lot. And what I know is if someone is wounded, they have to do what they have to do. I don't see him ever approaching me. But you know what? I'm all right. I've really moved on. God, I'm happy for the first time in a long time. I'm Phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm Phoenix rising from the ashes again on this card. I'm moving forward. I'm so much more content now that I just realized that it's a closure. I'm not going to end up with them. She's completely ended things and is very much at peace. And I don't know if they're going to have the ability to disrupt her peace, because she's actually healed from all of this. Meanwhile, he's barely started to make some changes in his life and start the process of being authentic in what he wants. He may still have a lot to figure out about who he really is. We have the Lovers card and we have the Chariot. It doesn't matter. He says he's headed toward her. He says, I have to do this. This has been what I've wanted all this time. I mean, yeah, maybe I messed it all up. I mean, yeah, but he's still defensive about that, almost like it's not really his fault. Why were you defensive? Let me ask that with that Five of Swords that popped up for him. Justice card, he's saying it wasn't fair. The life I was in, what was expected of me, the way things were, I was a victim. It wasn't my fault. And he could have some real points in that. It's easy to say, well, somebody should just do, what they should do. Harder to, if you don't know the intricacies of a situation, it can be a lot more difficult to disentangle oneself from a situation. He's saying it wasn't all my fault. I had to play ball. I had to keep a low profile. I was in the midst of, I don't know if it was a really difficult group. I mean, all we know is that it looked like there was a ton of drama and a ton of like tit for tat and a ton of, I mean, maybe this was like a pit of vipers that he was dealing with. You notice how one person is moving everyone on the chessboard. I mean, maybe he's spot on. Like, I was in a nightmare mess. It wasn't something I could just snap my fingers and be free of. It was better for me to deal with what I had to, disentangle myself, and then move forward and start the next chapter of my life. I didn't have any other choices. I do think he somehow disappeared, went silent on her, didn't like stand up for the connection, or if people said something unkind about her, I don't know that he, like stood up to them against her, because I think he allowed his own sorrow and devastation about his circumstances to just remain only his own secret. I think he has been freaking miserable dealing with some, I'm going to say like a pit of vipers, and miserable knowing that he wasn't able to move toward her at that point in time. He's arguing this wasn't my fault. There were circumstances beyond my control, and only time, this is Seven of Coins, only time would either get me my freedom. I don't know, this feels very strange. Maybe it was a money connection. Maybe it was a contract. Maybe it was, because we actually started out back in part one. We started out, the first card was the fish, which I said, oh, wealth. And then I was like, Tower. Why is the wealth collapsing? Why is the empire collapsing? Maybe it was a business-oriented family business thing. Maybe there was a lot more to it. There was definitely something about legalities, but something had to be completed. And this almost says a contract that he had signed had to be completed, or something had to be done before he was going to be free of this. And in the meantime, there was no moving forward. He is undoubtedly moving toward that Queen of Pentacles. When are you going toward the Queen of Pentacles? Hermit now. Hermit in the reverse, no more silence. He's done thinking about this. He's, we see him sitting there for a minute with that Moon card. And in part one, we also had the Hanged Man for him. But we saw him sitting there and like gathering his thoughts. And maybe it's just like a night to sit and gather his thoughts. Even here, it's nighttime. And instead of doing any more deep thinking, he's like, look, I couldn't have done things differently. This is the way it had to go. I got to go talk to her because I'm free now. But it took as long as it took because that's the way it was. It wasn't fair for me either. He is going to go kind of like argue his point. He does not know if he'll end up, being her King of Coins, but he is coming in as a King of Wands, somebody very warm-hearted. Palace of Swords, and he's coming in with a very clear mind now. He went from kind of like, I said, wow, is he all over the place? Is this really confusing? This is the mind. He's got his brain, point by point. because I think, well, we just watched him think through it in this story, explaining, no, I didn't have a choice. It wasn't fair. There was legalities. There was this, there was that. There was a certain amount of time before things could be demolished and, I could gain this freedom, and, the empire had to fall before I was out of it. And all these things step by step by step. And I think he's ready to go and talk to her more like a lawyer presenting his case almost. I know what I at least need to go explain. I have something to tell her. Knight of Coins. And although this seems like a one shot in a million, by the way, it's the only Knight of Coins I've ever seen where it actually looks like he's going fast, because Knight of Coins is very slow, typically. But he's also riding a unicorn, not a horse. So there's some element of this might be the one time where something, there feels like there's magic afoot. Unicorns are magical, mythical creatures. We got that 8 of Cups. And here he is climbing that magical stairway. This is him like really getting locked in, dialed in. I'm free. I'm doing the things that are right for me. I'm following my own spiritual path. And my spiritual path says, I'm going to go talk. I'm going to go tell her what I have to say. That's it. You may have to travel an entire day and into the night. It's time to take off the masks. It's time to tell her the whole thing. He's not coming in with much to offer, but he doesn't care. He's coming in with the truth, and he's coming in with words that he has to get off his own chest. He's coming in with that 3 of Cups. No more masks. This could be right around like the holidays or something, just because that does look very festive. But it's like, here's the thing. I don't have much to offer other than a bunch of words and a bunch of emotions. Page of Swords. I think he's going to be watching her reaction really, 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 really closely when he talks to her, because he doesn't have any clue what she's going to be thinking of him. Let me just bounce over here to her for a minute and say, hang on now. She's over this. She's moved on. She's actually either spending time with family. We saw her in a kind of like a gathering or something. God, Queen of Pentacles, there she is again, by the way. But we saw her in a very like happy energy, very stable, happy gathering, like going back to see family. They're greeting her. It's just, she's in a really good, warm space right now. Very generous spirit right now. That's a great energy. If he's going to, wow, if he's going to go meet up with her. We lost a couple. Wow. Okay. We have King of Swords in the reverse, King of Wands in the reverse, 10 of Pentacles in the reverse. It's a lot to say. This is like her going, wow, this is a lot to take in. We also have the Justice card in the reverse, finally setting things right that were completely imbalanced, with that Temperance in the reverse. All these missing puzzle pieces. He was a complete and utter mystery to her. He is filling in the blanks in a really big way, all about the past. You notice we have a mermaid, 2 different faces, one looking back at the past. This is an apology. She may even say, I'm sorry for thinking the worst of you at one point in time. I didn't know enough to know what your situation was. But it's not fun to be out in the dark, but to have assumed that maybe you were just karmic, maybe you were my karmic, maybe you had nothing to offer. I almost think, again, I said there's magic afoot because we had a unicorn, and now we have a mermaid. I actually think this is going to be a really meaningful conversation. I think she's in a place to really hear it and really receive it and really listen to it carefully, closely. That is, I don't know. I actually think that these two are going to be able to, at least at minimum, connect with clarity and truth and integrity and get to the bottom of all the missing pieces of the puzzle. What they do after that, I don't know. I can only say it is so cathartic for both of them. Universe, do you have a final message here, folks? Do we have a final message on this? We've got a Queen of Swords sideways. There's still some hurt, there's still some pain, and there's still a lot to learn here, but there's a lot of conversation yet to come. These two have to start talking to each other. There's full transparency, but that too is going to take time. There's no determination on what happens with these two. Maybe they become friends, maybe they become lovers, but the bottom line is they finally become truthful with each other. Or he can become truthful with her, more importantly, perhaps. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. I'll see you again soon.